Welcome, everybody. It's really nice to be back. I looked at the agenda before we hopped on, and I think I recognize a few faces, so it's really great to be back in front of you guys again. Hopefully, we'll talk about some things that are helpful. But before we get started, let me just a little rundown about who we are for those of you who may be a little bit less familiar with Bandwidth. So we are a global carrier, and we are a native carrier in over 30 of the 60 markets that we serve. So we are a national carrier, meaning we're a CLEC in the United States, and we try to work directly with regulatory authorities in the various countries that we offer services in. And that'll become important a little bit later, so I just wanted to set the stage there. We cover 90% of the world's GDP with our coverage, and we are very, very fortunate to have some amazing customers listed on this slide to the right. If you've used a UCaaS or a CCaaS platform, chances are you've used Bandwidth. And in addition to that, we power some of the largest enterprises in the world, like Uber. We've got credit cards and cruise companies and a variety of other enterprises, healthcare and others that we serve with our solutions directly from a bring your own carrier perspective. And now we have a poll. So before we get started, I always thought it's fun to just try to get everybody engaged. So question for you all, let us know where you are in your cloud platform journey. So we've got a couple of options here. We're evaluating cloud platforms. So I'm thinking about moving to Teams, thinking about moving to Genesys, thinking about moving to, I don't know, name them all, Five9 or Zoom, RingCentral, any of the cloud platforms. I'm in the process of selecting a carrier. I'm working on third-party integrations. You know, a lot of these aren't a standalone thing. They connect to other things. So a lot of our customers are working on those. You're already at the cloud. You're just trying to make it better. Or, hey, you're on-prem, you love it, and you want to stay there. So go ahead and fill out the questionnaire, and I will let everybody know what the results are in just a second. I'll give everybody a minute. 3, 2, 1. Looks like we're getting a few in there. Okay, let's see where we are. All right. So this is really an interesting poll because I've been doing these webinars for a couple of years now, and when we first started, almost nobody was there, which just goes to show you the rate of change that's happening in the industry is really, really fast. But evaluating and almost there, perfect, because I think what we have to say here hopefully will really resonate with you. And our goal, of course, is to just, try to make your life easier. So today we're going to focus on what are some of the best ways to move to the cloud. So 50% of you were moving to the cloud. So let's talk about what that process looks like. For those of you who are already there or just thinking about it, let's talk about what it looks like to manage your UC and CC together globally instead of having these be wildly disparate systems, vendors, et cetera. We're going to talk a little bit about planning for business continuity because how the network is architected for failover, for redundancy, for things that inevitably go wrong is really important. We'll touch on how we solve some of those problems. And then we are going to talk a little bit about thinking about your broader comm stack as you envision the future. So none of this is static, right? It's never like we're just done. It's always a work in progress. And so we'll let you know some of the things we're thinking about and some of the things on our roadmap that will hopefully make it really easier for you to adopt newer technologies going forward. Okay, so this is a little bit of an eye chart, but we can start from the bottom. And this is where it looks like 50% of you are today, or at least maybe you've got a hybrid situation where a lot of you are today, right? So you got the world, you got PBXs or call center platforms, SBCs, infrastructure all over the world, and you're trying to go up to the cloud. And today we were talking about Teams and Genesys, but this could be Zoom and this could be Five9. We're really just talking almost generically about what it's going to be like to have your communication stack move up into the cloud. And of course, the ultimate goal is deliver ROI for your business in a variety of different ways. Today's topic is primarily about control, about how we make the migration process easier with the ability to reroute traffic in real time amongst a lot of different platforms, and flexibility with a lot of the integrations that we've been building. So the ability to enable you to integrate with these cloud platforms without a lot of investment on your end. And then, of course, we wouldn't really, we're not going to spend time on these last two so much, except to say that direct, line to quality troubleshooting. Our customers consistently tell us they may have come to Bandwidth for a variety of different reasons, but they stay because of the service we provide, and we're really proud of our CSAT scores. We really aim to be your partner and not just your carrier. And then finally, there's obviously, ROI is obviously there. It's not just the rates that you pay, although when you consolidate all of your traffic globally, there's definitely economies of scale to be had. But also, when you think about what it takes to manage these platforms, if you have a bunch of different carriers, all those different logins, all those different bills, all those different troubleshooting processes, it's actually really complex. And we can really help you simplify that. So there's a return there. Yep. Next poll. All right. Got to keep everybody engaged in case my voice isn't loud enough. Usually it is. So let's talk about, is this, okay, sorry, I thought we were skipping to the next poll. Okay, so are we evaluating the cloud migration, currently moving to a cloud contact center, considering a contact center as a service in the next year, navigating third-party integrations, or not planning to move anytime soon? So this question is similar to the last one, but a little bit more about where the actions are for you now. And that'll help us. I like these poll questions because it helps us cater the conversation in these webinars to the actual pain and suffering you might be feeling, or anxiety, or excitement maybe, because it is exciting too. We'll give it a second.
This is the one poll question, though, where I wish we had almost a multi-select for a few of these.
That's totally true. Totally true. All right, let's see where we are. All right, so interesting. So really interesting is that 31% of you are talking about third-party integrations, and that is 100% some stuff that we're going to get to a little bit later. Mark, in fact, got a whole section of today's conversations on just that. So this is excellent. Thank you very much. And again, very consistent with trends that we've seen, and a really interesting acceleration that I think we've seen with COVID. And we're probably all well aware of those trends in the industry right now. Okay, so with the migration, we have the opportunity to do a couple of key things to consolidate, to streamline, and to future-proof. And when I think of this, I don't know how many of you all are familiar with Marie Kondo. She's the Japanese woman who does the house cleaning and sparking joy and all that. She's pretty popular here in the US. Anyway, it's kind of like Marie Kondoing your telecom stack anytime you're making one of these major changes. So our goal here is to help you get from super messy to Zen. And without further ado, I am going to introduce Mark. So my colleague and friend Mark's going to talk in a little bit more detail about what migrations look like, what number management looks like when you're working with multiple platforms and multiple countries with Bandwidth.
Great. Thank you, Lauren.
This one's all you.
Thank you, Lauren, and thank you for folks that could join this. So quick poll. I guess you test the pulse on a few things. Where does this resonate? I'll give you guys a few seconds to pull this one as well. The question's hidden, but I think it's just where are we disrupting my toll-free customer traffic, can't connect, third party, et cetera. Where are the problems in your space? Give you just a second. Oop. Might have went too fast there. There we go.
Nice.
Oh, wow. And look at this. Okay. Making features, customize what I need. Yet very consistent with some of the things that we're hearing from customers and in the industry that we'll spend time talking about or covering in just a few moments. Very interesting. Oh, toll free also. Great. All right, let's keep going. So real quick, spend some time here as a preset. There are two duet solutions that Bandwidth has announced for Microsoft Teams in the UCaaS space and with Genesys in the CCaaS space. We'll cover these and go into more detail in terms of the migration of looking from bottom to top and what that experience looks like and how we can work to help to make sure that this is frictionless for you and ultimately benefiting your customers and employees and staff as well. All right, so what happens when you migrate? We think of migrations in three separate stages, right? We think of stage one where we'll plug into your existing infrastructure, and we're going to do what's called a do no interruption port, which means we're going to take the numbers from your existing carrier over to Bandwidth. Oh, cool, and I was waiting for that to fill in. And the calls would flow like they would normally. However, the calls are going to route to the flow that would be in place today. And then finally, we're going to do what I'll get into a little bit on the next slide is what it looks like in Bandwidth Portal to show how easy it is to port numbers from a legacy carrier to Bandwidth, meaning your legacy carrier call center platform to Genesys, for example, or it could be anything. This could be a UC platform to Teams, or it could be Genesys to Teams, or it really doesn't matter. But we can accomplish this because we have a layered software in such a way where the management of numbers is easy to accomplish from a global standpoint. And the porting and migrations are often considered the most daunting task for customers when we talk to them, but it's really the easiest thing on the task list. And what our goal is to make sure that we add value by making sure that we're essentially demystifying the telecomplexity, as we call it, because it is very complex, but it doesn't have to be. So I mentioned a moment ago, this is just a screenshot, unfortunately not a demo, but what you see here literally is our dashboard view. And on the left, you see this concept called locations. Don't think of this as a physical geographical location, but more a bucket of numbers, a container of numbers, if you will. And I think in the example here, we also have the screen's pretty small. I see a UC example for unified communications, but it could be a contact center. It could be anything, right? Where we plugged into the legacy system, like a Cisco call manager on-prem, for example. And you'll notice in the legacy system, there are location new routing to new MS Teams. Again, this could be Genesys, it could be Teams, it could be anything. But our dashboard, if you look into the old platform, and when you click on the hyperlink, it will show you the numbers associated with that account. And then to move these numbers, you essentially select the ones you want, one or many in bulk, and select a new location. Look at the drop-down menu, select that, and hit the new location for where you want these to move to. Those numbers move immediately, and we'll start routing and adopting those routing profiles that have been set for that new routing profile. Conversely, and we learned this the hard way, I think, with some demo testing internally and customers, but it's very easily recoverable, meaning if you accidentally move one or many numbers over a little too fast, it's very easily undone, meaning you can recover, and it's very simple to do that. And I think Lauren's got way more customer examples of this that had to be recovered.
Yeah, well, one fun story, some of you may have heard this one before, but we really did have a customer who had an executive on vacation. And most of the time when you're doing these number management, number migrations, number porting scenarios, you're doing them in cohorts, right? So we had a CEO that was out on vacation, moving from a legacy platform over to Microsoft Teams. CEO comes back, voila, I'm on Teams, except no training, no idea how to use it. Frustrating, basically said to the IT department, I want the old thing back for a couple of weeks. It was really easy to do. This really happened. And he was able to just literally click of the button, roll him back, had the old platform. Well, when he was ready, migrated it over. And then eventually what you end up doing is once everybody's migrated and everything's fine, you're able to disable the legacy system. You just yank out those SIP trunks to get rid of that cost, and you're done. But you can do it at whatever pace you want. You can do it in whatever cadence with whatever teams or number groups you want. So people usually divide up by region or by department or sometimes by actual physical location as well.
Great, thank you. All right, quick poll. So let's talk about, get an idea of what how many countries are you operating in? Just for a quick poll analysis. Give just a few seconds for that. All right, I think I see him coming in. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, I want to make sure I give enough time for that. Let me make sure. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say that you can't just be 1 to 3. Great. Okay. All right. So the carrier experience. One thing to highlight, I think, moving from right to left, thinking of an inbound call. For the example of this is Genesys. So think of a CCaaS platform. So I'm a customer. I'm going to call from my mobile device into your contact center. And if we flow from right to left, how this works with bandwidth is one thing to cover or to highlight is that in the center, so bandwidth is partnered with large incumbent carriers. That's what the stack is in the center. And we can route traffic and ensure they're delivered in a different route very quickly if we have to. So something to consider when choosing a carrier to partner with that offers services, think of aligning with this on a single toll-free network. If by doing so, you subject yourself to local market outages. We've seen this in the past where a major event happens maybe 2 years ago or on the Northeast and wipes out that carrier traffic. In this particular case, even though we've partnered with that particular carrier, if it happens, for example, we can quickly take that carrier out of a route so that calls will flow through without going through that traffic pattern. And then once it's resolved, we can update the routing pattern and then let traffic flow as normal. It's very important to consider that when forming partnerships or looking for carriers, this type of redundancy that we offer. And 1 second, it's here. Okay. So if we take a look at third-party tools and apps, again, as a carrier, one of the things that's very important that we want to call out was think of the metadata that carriers have upstream. And as a carrier containing that metadata, and we're passing that on to your environments, if you need to build these third-party applications that are called out here, and there's a few, looking at an IVR, call containment, who is your fraud detection, how do you do call authentication or fraud detection, right? All of these third-party apps in your application or in your contact center will need this metadata to make sure that it's working. For example, a carrier like Bandwidth that can fork or stream rather metadata or refer calls based on a specific call route or profile that customers have. It has to be a flexible infrastructure like Bandwidth that can interface with these applications to help you ensure you have the rich data for your contact center, ultimately benefiting your customers and that experience. Consider an experience of customers when they interface with your IVR, for example. Does the IVR know who they are when they call without being prompted for information? Example, I'm flying this weekend out of the country and I've had to call a large airline several times to make a few changes and I'm not done yet. When I call this airline, I don't mention a thing when I hit the IVR, and every single time I call without mentioning any authentication whatsoever is, welcome back, Mark. Is this pertaining to your upcoming trip to, and it mentions the destination. That's just one example of what companies are doing using third-party tools that need advanced information upstream from a carrier for call authentication, for example. And let's see, advance here. Oh, and back over to Lauren. Lauren, I think you might be on mute.
You are correct. I was on mute. We typically find that it's nice to end these conversations with you all with some real life examples that maybe can help illustrate some of the capabilities and services that we offer. So this is a recent example of a customer that came to us with both a contact center, happened to be Genesys, and Duet for Teams offering, which is a Microsoft integration for Teams. And they were modernizing their entire global telecom contact center and unified communications stack. So when they started looking at, how am I going to solve this problem and what do I need to do? There's a few key things that they honed in on and feedback that they gave us about why bandwidth. So improved customer experience, easy to migrate. We like to say that. Everybody says they've got great service. We really like to believe that we do because we really do care. But besides that, one of the things they called out was regulatory compliance. So again, when you're dealing with operators across the world, no two have the exact same requirements for what you need to do to register phone numbers, right? So we try to standardize that. And within our applications that you interact with, for instance, if you're going to try to port a number in Austria and it was a number type that wasn't supported, we'll let you know that. If there's information that needs to be filled out to port a number or to get access to a number, we'll let you know that. And that information is quite literally different for every country that we do business in. Also, emergency services is fairly straightforward in a lot of the world, but in the United States, it's not at all. So we've got Ray-Bombs Act, we've got Kerry's Law, very strict regulations on being able to identify where people are at the time of an emergency call, meaning you cannot tie that location anymore to the phone number. It actually has to be tied to where that person is. And we have products and services that integrate with these platforms that help you do that. So that was a big selling point. Being able to consolidate down from almost 20 carriers down to one was a huge deal for them. We don't, in the spirit of, we cover 60 countries. There are outliers that we don't cover, but being able to, for them, it worked out that all of the major places that they needed to cover, we had service. So that was a huge deal for them, huge deal, because that means that you have one bill. You have one portal to download and interface into your billing system, to get access to the CDRs, to look at your call performance across the globe. So you've got one portal and one carrier to do that with. Was a big deal for them and a big deal why we won. They also loved our self-service bulk number porting and number management capabilities. So we give you the ability to schedule and do ports on your own time through our portals. You don't actually need us to do those things. Some customers, however, really like us to be there, and we totally get that. So as part of a project management plan for onboarding you, we absolutely will have porting specialists there for you. But for this particular customer, they were just very comfortable doing it on their own. I was like, awesome. We love these tools. We don't even have to call you or talk to you. We can do this whenever we want. This is awesome. The next one, of course, was our global footprint. And the last one was also really interesting. So there's a lot of curiosity on our end initially about how willing large enterprises would be to get rid of things like session border controllers and the calling infrastructure in that call path. And the answer is people are really willing to do that and actually welcome it. A lot of these enterprises do. And in this situation with this customer, they were so grateful to be able to just get rid of their session border controllers, get rid of their infrastructure, because basically what you're able to do with many of our integrations and our duets is that call goes from your user to your Teams client directly to bandwidth and to the PSTN to the rest of the world, and vice versa. If you're coming back into Genesys, call goes from your, someone in the world to your call center through bandwidth directly into Genesys. And that eliminates the need for a bunch of infrastructure in the middle of the call flow. And as Mark alluded to earlier, because we're an actual native carrier, we have the ability to capture a lot of that information and make it available to you. So resellers or people who aren't national operators sometimes don't have the same degree of access and control over those things than we do. So I don't know, hopefully that's a helpful user story. It's just an example of the process that one of our customers went through and some of the value they found in what we were offering. We would absolutely love to talk to you more.
Yeah, I would say thank you so much for joining. And if any other questions, please let us know.